Morning everybody, Ben Jones here again with Batdorf and Bronson Coffee Roasters, coming at you on a Monday morning from my coffee workshop. We got something fun today. This Monday, forget the day of the week it is, the date. I have a coffee here, so fresh, so new that I can only get it in a brown paper bag, but y'all are the lucky ones. If you go to batdorfcoffee.com, you can get this new coffee. It's a Colombia, coffee out of Colombia. It's a really special and very unique variety of coffee called the Gesha. Gesha is an heirloom variety out of Ethiopia that was brought over quite some time ago to Central and South America. And only recently, in the last handful of years, it's really kind of gained recognition for its unique flavor profiles. We have a great little video chatting about that. One of our other videos. Anyway, it's a fun, nice coffee. We have a very limited amount of it. So if you want some, check out the website, batdorfcoffee.com. Make sure you toss in that discount code WATCHANDLEARN10, get you 10% off on this coffee and whatever else you need to pick up. We'll ship that to you complimentary, standard shipping if you order $30 or more. Anyway, because this coffee is pretty special and very unique and comes in a very limited batch, I want to brew it in a little more special way. No, that doesn't mean the vacuum pot. That's a fun way. But I want to use a tool that can really highlight some of the unique and delicate traits of this coffee in particular. So what I'm going to do is go with my friend the Chemex. The Chemex brewer, given this really thick filter paper, pulls out oils, fine particles. It catches all the things that tend to block our taste receptors. It blocks the things that provide body, but allows the flavors to pass through. A general rule, and this isn't 100% every single time, but the general rule is higher body coffee is going to give a higher body, lower flavor clarity. Increase that flavor clarity, you reduce the body. There are always exceptions, but that's a good general rule. So, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put my Chemex on my scale, put my filter on there. I'm also gonna tilt this down so y'all can see better. So there's my grinder and my pour kettle, and there is the Chemex. All right. I'm gonna try to get it so y'all can see the pouring action here. So I want to start with a rinse. This high quality paper filter can also impart a lot of paper taste because there's so much paper in there to do the filtering. That can leave a large amount of paper flavoring. And we don't want to taste paper, we want to taste the coffee. We talked a little bit about that in our filter video. Just pour this out. Now, because we're here in my workshop, I don't have a sink. What I do have is this noisy drain box here next to me that runs down into a bucket so that I can do this a little more easily. All right. My lack of a sink means that I have to be really careful about making sure I have water in the shop. There's our 42 grams today of moderately coarsely ground coffee, that Colombia Gesha that we're going to be brewing. All right, make sure y'all can see this here. Cool, got my little tab there. So when we're drinking a mug of coffee, we're really only taking in a small little bit of actual coffee. Most of what we're drinking is water. the average American coffee drinker can perceive coffee flavoring in water in as little as about 1%. So if your beverage solution is only down to 1% coffee, you'll be able to taste coffee in there. Our flavor preferences for what we like for strength, typically coffee as low as 1.15% up to just over 1 1/3 at 1.35% is the range that Americans like coffee in. And I'll tell you, 1.15, that's a pretty weak cup of coffee. That's a very watery and thin cup of coffee. But you can get some good flavor out of that. If you are the type of person who likes a stronger cup of coffee, you might go up to a 1.28 or 1.35% coffee concentration. And that's just how much coffee flavoring is in there. Because there's so little actual coffee, we want to be really careful with whatever the rest of that beverage is. You know, we have a little saying where we say coffee is 98.5% water. So we want to make sure that we're using good water. I'm going to go and just bring this up a little bit, and I'll set my kettle down. Bring it up to about the top of that Chemex rim, and that puts us close enough to 600 grams. It's just a good way to measure. I'll just top it all the way to 6 because I can. 600 grams. So I like to pause now and do a little lift and turn, let that resettle. All right. So while this water drips through, let's talk about the water that I poured in. On a special coffee like this, I want to really do the best I can with brewing it. So the water out of my tap, I've got really good water where I'm at. That tap water is okay. It's a municipal supply, so sometimes, depending on how the water treatment program is going, we might get a fluctuation in chlorine. When that chlorine spikes, the coffee loses a lot of flavor. Chlorine and coffee flavor do not play well together. So if I'm just making a cup, and I don't need to be too finicky about it, my municipal water, my tap water, it's going to do just fine. If I'm thinking ahead and doing well, I'll go ahead and run all my tap water through our household filter. We have just one of those, you know, kind of big gravity. You pour in your 3 gallons of water and it drips through. And that water works really great. Those filters remove fluoride, chlorines. It just takes out any like particulate that could be in that water. And that gives me a very consistent, very nice cup of coffee or water to brew my coffee with. That's a pretty safe, solid way to do it. There's always still some fluctuation because we are starting with a municipal source and do that. And it's just a simple filter. Britas are awesome for making coffee if you have the patience to, you know, just keep on filling those up. The Britas are, you know, they do what it needs to do. The point is that the water we use, we want it to be free of any tastes. We want it to be free of any odors. And we really don't want to have any chlorines in there. If we have that base level, if you enjoy the taste or the lack of taste of your drinking water, it's probably going to taste okay as coffee, simply because it won't be adding any odd flavors. Very much in the same way that by rinsing our filter, we can take out those paper flavors, right? So we don't be adding any flavors that aren't coffee. But we can get really nerdy and scientific and go a lot deeper into that, and we can start asking things like, well, how much calcium is in the water? What are the chlorides? How much phosphorus? You know, there's a lot of compounds in water that actually help us to brew. So there's this really, well, back up a little bit. If I don't use the water filter at home and the tap water is not red, I'll just pick up a gallon jug at the market. And this is, it's just spring water. Usually you can have spring water, drinking water, and distilled water. Spring water, drinking water, they're both great. See what works well for you. But you really do want to avoid distilled water, because if you use distilled, that water is completely free of any extra minerality. The distillation process gives us as close to pure water as we can really get. And when that happens, we don't have those little mineral agents acting with the brew coffee to pull flavors out. And the type of compounds that are in the water can dramatically affect perceived acidity, sweetness. You can increase bitterness. If you have too much iron, your coffee can actually turn kind of green. It's really weird. If you happen to have distilled water and you want to get really nerdy, there's a product on the market that we're not affiliated with, but it's out there. It's called Third Wave Water. And they give you these little tiny packets full of like a crystalline mineral powder. And these are designed to dump one packet into 1 gallon of distilled water, and that will allow you to remineralize that water in a controlled way to brew with your coffee. So one of the things that we hear often is in our cafes and in our tasting room in Olympia, and I'm sure in Atlanta as well, people say, I can't get my coffee to taste the way it does in the cafes. People will say, my coffee tastes great at home, but when I go to the office, it doesn't taste good. That 9 times out of 10, I would bet, is a water issue. Water's a big part of it, and if you don't have good clean water, you can't have really good coffee. I'm of the opinion that for my daily use, filtered tap water is awesome. Occasionally, I'll pull up just some plain old tap water right out of my tap, because again, we have really, I'm lucky to have really good clean water where I'm at. We really take it for granted, don't we, how we have access to clean water. Yeah, just reflect on that for a little bit. Anyway, for your daily use, we can definitely just use some, filtered house water, even tap water. They're all great options. If you want to get a little more involved, you can definitely buy a certain brand of spring water or drinking water, see how that plays. And if you want to get really into it, Third Wave Water, get their little remineralization packets, add that to some distilled water. Point being, this Columbia Gesha special coffee, I wanted to treat it right, so I used some of my good water. I used my Chemex because I wanted that really crisp and clear clarity of flavor. And I'll pour some of that into my favorite little diner mug. I'm gonna have a little sip. You can have some of this too. Very special coffee, limited run. It's the Gesha variety, and some people say that, well, I like to think of this like apples. You got your Honey Crisps, you got your Fuji's, your Brayburns, your Red Delicious, you got your Granny Smiths. They're all apples, but boy, they sure are different. Check it out, the Columbia Via Esperanza, batdwarfcoffee.com. This is going to be brilliant through a Chemex, an AeroPress. I think it'll stand up really nice also to a French press if you're French pressing. You'll get a little more body. It'll feel a little more toasty. Good cup of coffee. Thank you for visiting today. Keep checking back. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be doing some more of this. Go out, have a great week, do some good in the world.